You are tuned in to Recovery TV, the voice of hope. Discussions and information on addiction and mental health issues. Here is your host, John J Tassoni Jr., with today's guest.
Welcome to Recovery TV. I'm your host, John Tassoni. My guest today is Miss Sarah Dinklage, and Sarah is the CEO of the Student Assistance Counselors here in Rhode Island. So welcome, Sarah, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
And I'm sure that a lot of people don't know what Student Assistance Counselors are, so could you explain it?
Yes, absolutely. Student assistance counselors are master's degree level counselors whom we embed in middle schools and high schools throughout Rhode Island. It started as a pilot in 4 high schools, and today we are in 70 middle and high schools.
Wow.
In 32 districts.
By the way, very much needed too.
Yes. And so what student assistance counselors do, they're implementing an evidence-based model program called Project Success. It's a student assistance program model. And their job is to reach kids early on. So that's why we embed them in the school. We embed them in schools where kids have easy access to substance use and mental health services. So student assistance counselors provide prevention, early intervention, for the purpose of helping kids who are starting to use reduce their use or stop using, and ideally to prevent use from starting in the first place.
So tell me about student assistance counselors as far as male and female. Do you have both?
We do have both. Mm-hmm. It's predominantly female.
Right.
That's really very typical of the counseling field, teaching field,
Right.
Unfortunately. But we're working hard to get more men involved in the program. I'm very pleased with our diversity in other areas. We have, our student assistance counselors are reflective of the communities in which they serve, and we're very pleased with that. And they're a highly skilled, specially trained group of folks. They come with a master's degree, they come with experience in outpatient, inpatient settings, working with adolescents, and then we train them in the special delivery of school-based prevention and early intervention.
Now, every September, do they jump around or they stay in the same
No,
school?
student assistance counselors are assigned to a school. Mm-hmm. Some of them cover 2 schools, but they're in that school. So they really build relationships. And we're providing assessment and brief intervention, individual counseling, group counseling. And I say brief intervention, but what I always tell student assistance counselors, it's really long-term, because you start with kids their freshman year, and you're with them for 4 years. It doesn't mean you're seeing them every week,
Right.
But they check in, their lives, they bring their problems with their lives, their ups and downs, the challenges. We've had so many students say, if it weren't for my student assistance counselor, I know I wouldn't have graduated.
Yeah.
They helped me through the toughest times of my life. And that's really essential. The connections with a caring adult, research has showed time and time again, is what prevents substance use from happening.
In the communities today, it's got to be a very difficult job, both to be a student assistance counselor and a teacher, because the growing up part of it, a lot of homes now are single family homes, single parent. A lot of grandparents now are bringing up their grandkids because they either their kids are being at the ACI, or they're nowhere to be found, or they're homeless. So the student assistance counselor is almost like trying to be both.
Yes.
Trying to have a child under your wing to make sure they do the right thing, and also to be careful that they don't go astray and start using, whether it be alcohol or substances. I was on a phone call yesterday about 6th graders now that they're seeing with alcohol poisoning. And that's alarming to me and concerning. 6th grade, you got to think of that. I mean, how old's a sixth grader now? Are they 10, 11? Coming up with alcohol poisoning?
Yeah.
I mean, someone's not driving the bus the right way.
Exactly, and a lot of these students are living in families where a parent or caregiver has a substance use disorder. And we reach out to those students and we provide support groups specifically for that population.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, John, we are in the middle of an opioid overdose crisis. And if you talk to any person struggling with addiction to opioids, to heroin, most, if not almost all, will say they didn't start with heroin.
Right.
They started with alcohol and marijuana in the 6th and 7th grade and high school. So we really feel that, you know, delaying initiation to begin with, and also to intervene early when kids start using, so that it doesn't become a chronic and severe problem that leads to addiction.
And then you have the other people saying that marijuana and alcohol is not a gateway.
Right.
You know, so I mean, we're all over the lot on that.
Right. I don't even bother with the term gateway. I simply say, you know, you talk to anyone who's addicted to heroin and ask them, did they start with heroin? No, they started using with marijuana and alcohol.
And you know, we have another problem on the horizon if the General Assembly passes legalization of marijuana. So that is going to impact a lot on student assistance counselors. You know, people say, you know, the black market's going away, but it's not going to go away, because who wants to pay taxes? I mean, they're looking at 27% tax on buying marijuana. You know, the black market's going to thrive because no one wants to pay that 27%, or whatever they come up with. No one wants to pay taxes.
Right.
You know, so I mean, your organization, your ladies and men who work underneath you are going to have another combined problem. And now we got the General Assembly looking, and they just looked, I just looked online today, that they passed a alcohol take it out when you do takeout. You know, we're getting up to being pretty close to number 1 and number 2 in DUIs, and then we go and do something like that. Then we got the NIPS, that's a problem. The alcohol's up 234% because of COVID. This is really, this is not even a perfect storm. This is a typhoon
Exactly.
for substance use and mental health.
Right. Yeah, and you know, that's why it's so important to intervene early. The issue with marijuana legalization, just like with alcohol being legal, kids' perception of the risk goes way down.
Yeah.
So kids say, you know, student assistance counselor said the other day, a student challenged her in class saying, you know, how bad can this be? It's medicine. My grandmother uses it.
Yeah, right.
And so it's a matter of educating.
Right.
You know, you can't ram things down kids' throats. You have to really talk about it from where they're at, and you have to be factual. You can't exaggerate the risk. You have to be very clear. It's a public health issue, and we've been successful in other public health areas like tobacco use. Even vaping has gone. Use of e-cigarettes among kids has gone down since 2018 a little bit because of the public health messaging for kids.
Right.
So we have to do the same thing with marijuana.
Educate. We're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
You've been watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni, here with Sarah Dinklage, who's the head of the Rhode Island Student Assistance Councils, and we'll be right back after this.
When people find out that I've been sober for a while, they say, oh, you must have great willpower. The truth is I have no willpower, and that's why I decided to get help. You know, it must take a lot of strength to stay sober. No, it takes strength to ask for help. And once you're done, once you've decided that you don't want to live like this anymore, the real strength and the real courage comes when you ask for help. And then you'll find that people are willing to give that help, and that's when your life can really begin.
Serving the community for more than 30 years, 3 generations of our family at Wesco Oil have been providing reliable comfort to your home.
From oil delivery to installation and service, you can trust us to maintain your heating and cooling systems year-round. Visit us at bewarm.com to choose an option that best meets your needs. Be cool or be warm. We've got you covered. Honest service at a competitive price. Wesco Oil Company.
Sometimes everyone can use a helping hand. At Tri-County Community Action Agency, we offer support services when you need it the most. From food and heating assistance to family health and dental care, we have programs to lend a helping hand throughout the whole life cycle. From grandkids to grandmas, individuals or families. If you or someone you know could use a helping hand, visit our website at tricountryri.org to learn more about the many services we provide. We know it isn't easy to ask for help. At Tri-County, we are here when you need us. For more information, visit tricountryri.org or call 401-351-2750.
If you're struggling with addiction to pain pills or heroin, it's time to call Groups Recover Together. Groups will get you the medicine you need to feel better.
When I took Suboxone, I felt just like able to function, no sickness, no, anxious feeling.
And will give you the support you need to build the life worth being sober for. The time commitment is minimal, just 1 hour a week. You can meet with us in person or virtually. Call now to get started.
If you or someone you know is struggling with a mental health or substance abuse issue, the members of Horizon Healthcare Partners are here to help. Kodak, Community Care Alliance, Newport Mental Health, Thrive Behavioral Health, and Tides Family Services serve the behavioral health needs of all Rhode Islanders. We also operate BH Link, the state's 24/7 behavioral health emergency center. For help, call the 24/7 hotline at 401-414-LINK. For more information, visit Horizon Healthcare Partners at hhpartners.org.
And now back to Recovery TV with your host, John J Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, AdCare. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. I'm here with Sarah Dinklage today, and Sarah's the CEO of the Student Assistance Councilors here in Rhode Island. Sarah, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for the work that you do. We're in this pandemic, both up and down the East Coast and across the country. What are your students and assistant counselors seeing due to the mass, due to the virtual teaching, not face-to-face? We hear a lot of child abuse going way down because obviously the kids are staying home. Tell me what you're seeing.
Well, we are seeing, as so many people have reported across the country, a real escalation in mental health and substance use problems, and the seriousness of those problems has increased, particularly mental health issues. So you have, the normal development process for adolescents is a social process, and essentially for almost 2 years they were taken out of that process and weren't able to develop, didn't have the normal developmental experiences, and that has really taken its toll. So we see, for example, 8th graders coming back in the fall this year who really hadn't been in school for 7th grade, even the latter part of 6th grade. And so there's a lot of unsocialized behavior being shown. There's increased fights in the hallway, increased violence in school, significant increase in depression and anxiety. And
is that in both male and female?
Yes, definitely. Yep. And sadly, we have seen an escalation in suicide attempts, very dramatically from 1 year to the next. Students showing up in emergency rooms with suicidal ideation.
Right.
And also what we're hearing around the country, and we've certainly experienced it, is there are so limited resources in Rhode Island for adolescents many of these kids who show up in the emergency room need to be in intensive treatment, and they're just sent back to school because there's nowhere else to place
that's
them.
a pet peeve of mine, that we don't have enough services. We have all that money sitting in the bank, not doing anything, where we should have an adolescent facility, whether it be substance use and mental health, outpatient, inpatient. It is very much needed. We cannot no longer afford to not treat these individuals because it's getting progressively worse.
It is.
And I had a question of a parent the other day call me up and said, what do I do? How do I go about telling the student assistance counselor that I'm having these problems at home? So maybe you could touch on that, so the people that are watching say, well, Sarah said I should come in and talk to the student assistance counselor, talk to the principal,
Yes,
helps.
if a parent wants to refer their child, or just even talk about their child and their concerns about their child, they can call and have a confidential conversation with their student assistance counselor. I can give you the website, which has the list of all the schools with the student assistance counselors
Please
and
do.
contact information. And that information will be kept in confidence. They can go through the main office, or they can call the student assistance counselor's phone directly. But that is what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of despair and hopelessness. But the positive thing is, having, again, the more helping people you have in the building, it will reduce these, these issues. And student assistance counselors are unique in that they don't work for the school, but they're integrated fully into the life of the school. They're visible at student activities and clubs. They show up at sporting events, and they really get into the life of students at the school, so that kids see them in non-stigmatizing settings. It may be very difficult for a middle school student or high school student to walk into the office of a counselor, but when they've seen that counselor either give a presentation in their classroom or at their band concert or at their football game, they're more likely to seek help from that person. So student assistance counselors really do a lot of outreach and education to destigmatize asking for help.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the problem too with the parents, because they're afraid that if they mention something, stigma.
Right.
My child is going to be stigmatized. My child is going to be brought out of the line. But that's not the case anymore.
It isn't.
It isn't the case anymore. And if your child is having problems in school, call the principal, meet with the student assistance counselor. It's not shameful. It's not. Because these kids have gone through so much in the past 2.5 years. And they will continue
That's right.
to go down that road until we can eradicate this issue of COVID-19. When and where that will happen, we don't know. We don't know. But my point is that these children and young adults have gone through so much, along with adults, because of this pandemic, that it's not shameful. I have to repeat that. It's not shameful to pick up the phone and say, hey, listen, can you talk to my child? He's having some issues. He needs someone to talk to. And a lot of parents don't have that charisma, we'll say, to talk to their child about drugs or alcohol or whatever, because most parents today want to be friends instead of being parents. And that doesn't do anybody any good. You have to learn the two letters, no.
Right.
You have to learn those two letters. And because if not, you're gonna have problems from whether your son or daughter is in the 6th grade to the 12th grade and beyond. We're gonna talk a little bit more about that when we come back. We have to take a break. You've been watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. My guest today is Ms. Sarah Dinklage. She's the CEO of the Student Assistance Counselors here in Rhode Island, and we'll be right back after this.
Every week I work in stadiums filled with thousands and talk to thousands more on the radio, which means people who come from every walk of life. And I know that many, like my own family, have grieved over loved ones caught in the grip of addiction. 8 years ago, we lost my nephew to an overdose. But I've also seen in friends and even fans who've shared their stories, others break that hold and regain control of their lives. You can do the same. Please know you're not alone.
Anchor Recovery has been a mainstay since 2010 and was the first recovery community center in the state. Anchor Recovery has grown from just a couple of 12-step meetings to an entire cadre of meetings supporting multiple pathways of recovery. Today, we support medicated assisted treatment, mindfulness, meditation, yoga, and physical aspects of recovery. Easy access in 3 locations. Learn about how recovery can help you. Different paths, same destination. Stop in, call, or visit anchorrecovery.providencecenter.org.
The Rhode Island Department of Health reports that drug overdose death is the #1 cause of accidental death in our state. Zinnia Exeter is committed to helping overcome addiction and the silent epidemic of drug overdose. Our substance abuse completion rates are over 25% higher than the national average. If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, call Zinnia Exeter to learn about treatment options.
Local 57 Operating Engineers is Rhode Island's source for professional heavy equipment operators. For the last 120 years, Local 57 members have worked on all of Rhode Island's major construction projects, including buildings, roads, and bridges. If you're looking for professionally trained and licensed operators to run your excavators, loaders, cranes, or any other type of construction equipment, give us a call at 421-6678. If you're an experienced heavy equipment operator and would like to join our team, give us a call.
Treatment is often far more successful when individuals are offered both medication and behavioral therapy. Kodak Behavioral Health Care is Rhode Island's largest, only nonprofit, outpatient provider of care for opioid use disorder.
Our compassionate clinicians deliver the highest level of care for patients.
Through Kodak's medication-assisted treatment program, patients are prescribed methadone, buprenorphine, Suboxone, and naltrexone. For a confidential conversation, call Kodak.
The Parent Support Network is committed to supporting and assisting peers. Together, they're working with statewide and national partners to empower children, families, and individuals through dynamic supports, education, and advocacy to prevent abuse and neglect and progress toward universal health, wellness, and recovery. A location is near you. Child and Family Visitation and Training Center in Warwick, Hope Recovery Community Center in Middletown, Hope Recovery Community Center of Washington County in Westerly, or online at psnri.org.
And now back to Recovery TV with your host, John J Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, AdCare. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. My guest today is Ms. Sarah Dinklage, and she is the CEO of the Rhode Island Student Assistance Counselors here in Rhode Island. It's probably one of the toughest beats in the state right now. So I'm telling you, these men and women that work for you have got to have accolades. And is it tough to get a student assistance counselor? I know we had talked earlier, and that you have an opening, so the floor is yours.
Yes. Well, it is tough in the sense that we need very qualified people, people who love adolescents and want to work in schools. And we do have a full-time position open right now at Portsmouth High School. So if anybody is interested, they should get in contact with me as soon as possible, and I can go over the details.
Now, do you have a website that people can go visit?
Yes, it's www.risas.org.
So Sarah, if you had to give a tip to the parents that are watching this show today, what would be your advice?
My advice would be to talk to your child and talk often. Not just when you need to talk to them, but look for opportunities that when they might be ready to hear what you have to say. Conversation. Use examples if something comes up on TV or at a family gathering that might have been concerning. Bring subjects up around substance use and mental health, and don't be judgmental. Let them express what they're feeling at that time, and it may be something you don't want to hear, but tell them you'll accept what they're saying. You want to understand it.
Yeah, I think the worst thing is to shut your child down.
Right.
Because it just makes them more anxious and wants to do something different. And I think that's an issue. So I want to thank you for coming on today, and thank all your workers for what they do, because during this pandemic, this opioid crisis, they deserve a lot of credit. More has been put on their plate than ever before. So tell them I said thank you from Recovery TV.
I will.
So you've been watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. We'll see you next week.
I think when you're actively struggling with an addiction, you don't realize the harm that it's causing to the people in your circle, in your family, and your friends. By quitting and getting help, I was able to heal a lot of relationships that were damaged, and you find that people come back to you. Someone used to say to me that it's darkest just before dawn. So if you think that you've gone too far, it's not true. No matter what problems you have, your life can get better if you get help.
I started
getting in trouble when I was really young. I was bringing knives to school in the 3rd grade. I started hanging out with the wrong crowds. I envisioned that if I wasn't dead by 26, I'd be in jail. I never had plans past that. Tides give me the opportunity to start a new life fresh. So now to be 28 with 4 children, married, manage this restaurant, living in a house, it's a miracle. Life is incredible, and Tides is who I have to thank for that.
Addiction Recovery Institute with locations in Pawtucket and Warwick have been the leaders in treatment of opioid use disorder since 1993. Addiction Recovery Institute offers same-day admission, no waiting list. Services include medicated assisted treatment, detoxification, and substance counseling, always providing care to those who are most in need with dignity and respect. For more information, visit methadone.com.
Alcohol and drug addiction, depression, anxiety, PTSD, they can all seem overwhelming, but you don't have to face them alone. At Trinity Village, we are committed to providing addiction treatment that works. We specialize in offering integrated care for co-occurring mental and substance use disorders. We offer cutting-edge medicated assisted treatment and medication management. We are now offering virtual care to get the treatment you need from the comfort of your home. If you or someone you love needs help, call or visit us online at trinityvillage.org.
With these.
And this.
With my mouth shut.
And my ears wide open.
It means that from the moment you walk into the room,
you're the most important patient to me.
East Bay Recovery Center in Warren connects people in recovery to the supports and activities that make long-term recovery a reality. People with lived experience work to engage individuals and serve as a guide for new recoveries. The Peer Recovery Specialist's aim is to engage high-risk individuals being served in the community to vital treatment and services and follow-up to ensure the connection to treatment and services is maintained. For more information, visit ebcap.org or call 302-6231.
My first experience with addiction was actually with a family member. And I was very young at the time. I didn't really understand everything that was going on. But I knew that it really rocked my family to the core. Now, thank God that family member got the help that they needed. Sometimes you get yourself backed into a corner and feel like you've got to do it alone. But I think it's important for those people that are in that situation right now in their lives to understand they don't have to do it alone. You know, you can make it through this. You can get back on track.
You've heard me telling you about how the folks at Lopco are my personable particular professionals. Don't let your home repair or painting project go downhill this year. Call Lopco at 1-800-PAINTING and have the conversation now. Interior or exterior painting, small or large repairs, or a home renovation, Lopco Contracting does it all, whether you live at the top of the hill, the bottom, or anywhere in between. Call Lopco now at 1-800-PAINTING or log on to lopcocontracting.com. Salute.
Tune in every weekend for a new edition of Recovery TV. Host John J Tassoni Jr. discusses information on addiction and mental health issues with local leaders in today's recovery world. Tune in Saturday evenings on MyRI TV or Sunday mornings on CW Providence or Fox Providence.